Greetings guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Monette and this is my channel Evolve with Monette. I am so happy to share some energy with you guys today, and we're going to get right into the video. For those of you that are new here, I'm a professional intuitive empath and I would like to talk to you about spiritual divorces. We're going to get right into it. As in any divorce or any situation where you have to leave a partner or have to reconcile, how to deal with that. Sometimes there can be amicable separations. Sometimes it's contentious, cantankerous, painful. Sometimes it takes a lot of your energy and zaps you. And so what I have done over the years is really paid attention to the best way to initiate separation. And it goes back to being biblically founded. Now, we hear about stories in the Bible. Lot's wife, who turned into a pillar of salt, right? When she looked back and refused to leave Sodom and Gomorrah behind. And the reason that that was used is because in the Bible, there are a myriad of references about salt being both for binding and breaking. And today we're going to talk about a quick and very, very effective, and I will put the disclaimer here, do not use this if you are not wanting to be out of your situation. If you are not sure if you want to reconcile, if you are not sure if you want to make up with the person, or if you still have feelings, or if there's still something to be worked out, this is not something that you want to use. I do not use salt, and I do not recommend salt unless the person is finito, okay? If the person is essentially spiritually dead to you, or you're really trying to get them out of your house, this is something that can be used. It's a fantastic tool. But if you are not sure, once you do this, I don't know why, but it's very final. Let me tell you a little bit about the Bible's numerous references to salt. It shows up in various contexts, guys, and it's used metaphorically to signify permanence, loyalty, durability, fidelity, usefulness, value, and purification. Now, if you're dealing with someone who is an infidel, who is impure, who has defiled your relationship or a structure or partnership, this could be a business partnership, this could be a spiritual partnership, it could be a best friendship, it could be a relationship, it can be an actual romantic marriage that has paperwork, it can be a hand fasting. Whatever you have with somebody where you have a soul contract or you've bound yourself to them, this is incredibly useful in disseminating that energy and moving you into a new level. I'm on a whole other level. So when this comes up, now what I've done is I've picked up something because I used the last of what I had. So we have a brand new bag, and what we're using here is a Dead Sea salt, guys. I don't know if you can see that on here or not. It's raw Dead Sea salt. Here we go. It's kind of hard to see here, but it's raw Dead Sea salt, and it is harvested actually from the Dead Sea. Now, the Dead Sea is on my bucket list of places to visit and to float in and to be magically weightless. Who doesn't want that experience? But the Dead Sea is very powerful and obviously connected to a lot of theological, historical value and sites and stories in the Bible. And so when I'm doing work, and it's interesting because I don't do a lot of, they call it like kitchen witch or a lot of earth magic work per se, right? I definitely pay attention to the cycles of the moon. I pay attention to all of that stuff. But I had a voodoo practitioner once kind of enlighten me to my purpose here on earth. And she said, your purpose here is, let's see, hold on, guys. Me decline a call. Okay, so she said you're a pure soul, you're an earth angel, and she highly recommended that if I needed anything to go directly to God and the source, which I took heed to that advice because I thought if a voodoo priestess is telling me this, then it is something to pay attention to. And the reason I knew that voodoo priestess is because I'm a painter and I was painting a mural on her shop. She had solicited me for business, and so in that time when I was there over that week or two that I was doing that work, I got to really speak with her and find out some very interesting things that were very helpful for my journey. But she identified something that's been identified in me over and over. Earth angels and empaths, if you're watching, she identified that energy and highly recommended I steer clear and keep all of my work very grounded in white light, Christianity, purity, okay? So this is about as deep as it gets for me regarding work, But this is the most important thing. I think you don't need much else when you know how to really harness this. Now, I will tell you, in the past, what I have done as I have recommended it to people that were getting divorces. There was someone that I used to know that got a divorce, and the person wouldn't leave. The person she was with was kind of a grifter. And so I instructed her to get rock salt, the kind that you use with ice cream, to spread around the house in order to get her out of the house. And it worked within 24 hours. And I talked to her and I said the same thing, and I gave her the same disclaimer. Don't use this if you want reconciliation. Don't use this if you're not done with this relationship. Don't use this if you think that there's still unfinished business, because it isn't, for whatever reason, very powerful. When I had a particularly toxic girlfriend many years ago, I used this to separate us, because we were living in a condo together and I was doing all the heavy lifting and I needed to get her out. And energetically, this is what I used. Recently, I went through what would be essentially like I was with somebody spiritually. They were a bestie, they were a life partner, they were a lot of things for 20 years. And the work that I'm writing about it, I call it the Quietest Divorce, because it was really a situation that showed me the depth. You know that song True Colors? Like, I got to see that. But before I reached out to her to serve her with divorce papers, I did my own work. And empaths watching, this is really important for you to remember. It's just like in the airplane. Put your mask on before you put on anybody else's. This person was a treacherous liar, a dog-faced lying pony soldier, as the ghetto nun here on YouTube says. And she was malicious and cruel. She had no, it was so unwarranted. But in any divorce or ending of a relationship, people that were once allies will become adversaries and painful things will happen. So in order for me, I knew our soul contract, and I knew no matter how much she tried to break it or how much other people around her tried to interfere, we were still spiritually connected. And I wanted it to be less painful in the beginning for her. I wanted it to be less painful. I gave her the ingredients and the tips, which I'm about to give you, on what to do and how to use this in a couple of different ways, okay? In order to protect yourself. But before I reached out to her and I told her about the salt, what I did was I did my own work for a few weeks so that I was like safe and sound enough and felt protected enough to actually have that conversation with her without wondering if there was going to be any kind of weird vibrational energy between us. So I did my work for weeks before I ever told her, like, bitch, you've been served. Real talk, like, I served her. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this with you anymore. There was enough chances and enough of all of that. So if you have somebody in your life who you know doesn't want to be better, doesn't want to fix things, and you need a separation, and you need to know that you have some kind of spiritual and emotional recourse to protect yourself, I highly recommend it. The Dead Sea salt, for me, is what I used in this case particularly. There are various salts and various things. Now, as a classically trained chef, we can talk about Meldon and Fleur de Sel and all of that stuff, right? But when it comes to doing this work, I like sea salt. I like rock salt. If stuff is super treacherous, the rock salt. For the person that I helped get the divorce earlier, many years ago, rock salt was what was recommended, because that person was shady and grimy and all of this. The person that I had to spiritually divorce was also a shadester and a grimester. However, we were not living in each other's space, so it didn't feel like dire. But I was like, oh, this is dead, hashtag all the way dead. And so I wanted this to be, and it is sustainably sourced, and it's hand sourced as well. So this isn't like some I don't know, for whatever reason, I really resonate with this. This is also great for bath soaks and foot soaks and all of that stuff. In the first 6 months of this year, or the first 3 months of the year, I took a lot of salt baths. I would spend a lot of time at the ocean. For those of you that watch, you can see I spend a lot of time at the ocean. It's because I've been in a period of healing and recovery from an abusive relationship, honestly. So a one-sided abusive relationship, to say the least. And so this has come super in handy. Now, here's how you use it. It's simple. There's a couple ways. The first thing that I like is, if you really want to block out somebody, you write their name down on a piece of paper. You surround it in salt and clockwise. Okay, so you sprinkle a good thick line of salt around it. You could do this with iodized salt if you do not have these kind of salts at your house. Okay, I would spring for this. You could find this on Amazon for sure. This is where I get it from. Okay, so what I will tell you is you write that name down. Now as you're putting that thick line of salt around their name, you want to pray. I pray and I ask God to cover it in white light to protect me. I also ask for Archangel Michael, who is the cord cutter, to come in and to cut the cords. Cord cutting is highly recommended if you're getting a divorce and you still feel emotionally attached. When I had to leave that person, I was still very emotionally attached and codependent. Can we just call a thing a thing? And so in order to get out of that situation, I had to detach very strongly. So first thing that I did was I wrote the name down and I put it in salt and I put a circle around it and I prayed and I asked for that. I also have videos up here where I talk about kyanite, and this is something else that I used in this. I laid a piece of, I surrounded it. I did a grid of kyanite around it, a grid of Black Obsidian. There was a lot of demonic and dark energy that she was working with. She wasn't always that way, as many of our spouses, besties, or people that end up betraying us are not, but something happens and things switched and it did in fact turn that way. There was some entities and attachments that were strongly on her, but it came from transference of energy from a sexual partner that she had, and it just turned her life and mine upside down. And I was like, not today, Satan. For the work I do, I couldn't be involved anymore. I had given as much as I could give to that situation. What I will tell you though is when you write that name down in the salt, you pray and you ask for those prayers. If you have any other stones or crystals that you work with, Black Obsidian, I will show you guys here. This is something that I work with a lot in this year because there was a lot of demonic activity going on in that energy. When I was at her home the last time, I felt like I was in The Exorcist. I was throwing up and I was transmuting this darkness. Anyway, Black Obsidian, this is a huge piece of Black Obsidian. I'll be doing a video about this in my Crystal Clear series. But Black Obsidian stayed around me. Clear quartz stayed around me as well. But back to the salt. This is just, these are add-ons if you want to add it on, but you can get the work done with just salt, excuse me, and a pen or a pencil. Pen, I recommend. Permanent marker even more so, because you really want to understand and disseminate the permanence of that. As you see, the Bible says it's used for permanence, fidelity, and all of this. So if someone has broken the contract, this is what you do. You write their name down, circle it in salt, pray, leave it there on your counter overnight. Make sure it's not around cats, kids, or anything that can disrupt it, right? When it's done, you the next morning, you take like a Walmart bag or something disposable, paper bag, and you crumple up that piece of paper, fold in the corners like you would one of those notes when you were a kid. Make sure not a grain, not a granule is left on your countertop. And you want to make sure the piece of paper is big enough to withhold that circumference, that circle, so that way when you do fold it up, nothing is left over. If it is, sweep it into the bag. Okay, make sure to clean your countertop, sweep it into the bag, and you tie that bag up. You take that bag away from your house. You take it to a gas station dumpster. Don't throw it in your dumpster outside in your trash receptacle. You need to take it away from your house. If you could take it to a dump, if you've got that time, today I got time, cuz if you've got that kind of time, take it to a dump. And as you do, say, I release you with love from my life. And like Lot's wife, when you drive away or walk away or whatever you do, ride your bike away, when you leave, you don't look back. Literally, not in your rear view. Be safe in traffic, y'all, but not in your rear view, and try emotionally. Now, you may need to do that several times before you start to feel relief, in accordance with cord cutting meditations, which you can find here on YouTube and various things like that. But this is one of the most powerful. And I will tell you, you guys know I talk about narcissistic abuse here. I've had several narcissists in my life, and there's been two people. Then the one wasn't a narcissist. One was just a crazy ex from many, many years ago that was really toxic, and I just couldn't have in my energy or my space anymore. This one was a covert narcissist. And I've had other malignant narcs that I have not felt to use the salt with, because I knew that I was able to break every chain and separate myself from them. This one was especially insidious and pernicious and toxic and detrimental. She was a liability. And so, I've never, listen, I'm telling y'all, we've all had little tiffs and moments and people we've fallen out with. Salt is not for everybody. I was shocked when my angels guided me and they said, you're going to have to salt her. And I was like, no, because at the time, can we talk? Let's be real honest about breakups and how that happens. You think there's going to be reconciliation. I knew before I left the last time I saw her that there would not be, but I was still in heavy, heavy denial about it, because I thought, surely this can be fixed, but no, because I did everything I could. This person was wholly uncooperative and a total asshole. She had wanted no part of it. And I thought, okay, so what I did do was I did my own personal work and I took care of myself. There was no need to sprinkle the salt around my house because we didn't live together. Though that's the second step. If someone lives with you, you sprinkle it specifically in their areas and you say not a word about it. This is a little bit of a mind, meld that happens here. You sprinkle it in their closets. You sprinkle it by the foot of their bed. You sprinkle it where they walk to the bathroom. You sprinkle it on their path to get their coffee. If they go outside and they have a cigarette, you sprinkle it where their cigarette is. And I would highly recommend the ice cream rock salt for that. This Dead Sea salt is like, if you're done, this is wonderful. But there's something about the rock salt that's like gravel that lets somebody know the jig is up. And when they ask you, have you lost your mind? Are you crazy? What is happening? Say nothing. Just look at them. You've already prayed your prayers. As you're sprinkling, the same prayer applies. God, cover me in white light. Protect me from the danger of this person and their energy. And then also Archangel Michael, come in and cut these cords of connection. I'm ready to ascend. I'm ready to move on. But you sprinkle it in their stuff. And if they clean it up and vacuum it, back the next day and the next day and the next day. But I promise you, it won't take that many until the energy of the salt does the work. When people are getting married in the Bible, they use salt as a binder, right? Because it's about fidelity. So that's it. We see people combine sand and salt in various things at weddings as an honoring of their love. So salt is for breaking and it is for binding. But in this case, we're using it for protection, especially if someone has betrayed you, lied to you repeatedly. Come on, guys. This is not something you use. I want to stress that real quick. Do not use this because you had a little fallout with your bestie. This is not fallout with your bestie because you will irrecoverably change the course of your relationship. This is if someone is treacherous. This is 5 of Swords if we're in the tarot. This is 7 of Swords in the tarot if you were to take a look at it. Let me pull out when the salt is necessary, okay? Let me see here. Because I don't want you guys to just think, this is something that I want to just use because I'm bored and I don't like somebody. If you have treacherous co-workers, this is something that you can use. If there's gossip going on at work, if there's stuff like that, there are reasons that we use the salt. The salt is not just because your feelings are hurt. The salt is not just because there was one time when you needed a situation and someone didn't come through for you. The salt is when someone has tried you over and over and over and over and over and over again. The salt is if someone's trying to do a nasty custody battle with you. The salt is for that. The salt is your justice. So that's what I want you guys to understand about it. I don't want you to think that it's necessary for everyday use because it's not healthy, guys. And I want you to use it wisely. I want you to use it if you have a devil. I want you to use it if you know that there's demonic energy. For those of you guys that do this work, spiritual practitioners, we're all familiar with the evil eye. This person that I had to cut out of my life was a liability and my worst nightmare. All of my life, I've taken a real careful precautions to be careful of how I left relationships or to never leave them. Actually, let me be honest with you, it's very rare that I would walk away from something, and it was because I didn't want a crazy person in the world with all these ill feelings to me when all I had ever done was really try. Not to say I was perfect in the situation, because I obviously wasn't, but I will tell you that's why I got the salt, because I was like, oh my God, I've spent my whole life being very careful, and here I have this insane person who was so cruel and mean and passive aggressive, and it was my worst nightmare. And so that's why I needed God and the salt. If you're dealing with devil energy, and this doesn't even depict it well, guys, let Let me see if I can get you some cards that are going to actually show what's going on here. If you're dealing with devil energy, then this is a time for salt. I'll show you with these cards because I can't find any. I don't want to waste any more time. Devil energy is when you get salt. I was dealing with someone who was actually dealing with lower vibrational entities. She had no idea of were attached to her. She'd exposed herself to a lot of energies, and it really showed up in her life and in her child's life. If you're dealing with someone who's keeping secrets, this is the moon. This is when you need the salt. If it's repeated negative secrets, this is addictions. This person also had addiction, sexual, alcoholic, whatever, right? That's another series coming up about addictions and lower vibrational entities. She was not always like this, but what happened was she opened herself up in her addictions, and those entities did attach to her. Seven of Swords, which doesn't look treacherous here, but in other tarot decks it does. Seven of Swords is someone who was literally a narcissist and manipulative and purposeful, causing tower moments in your life where everything breaks down. Scorpionic energy of transformation and change. Five of Swords, competition, triangulation, strife, lies, cheating, deceit, ego needs being met. Five of Swords is drama. That person was bringing mad drama into my life. No bueno. Three of Swords, heartbreak, deceit, lies. This is tough stuff. And 10 of Swords here looks beautiful, but in the regular tarot, it's betrayal. It's 10 swords in your back. She put all the swords in my back I could take. And so I salted her ass. But I'm ever a lady, and I did extend her the courtesy. I told her to salt. And it's so funny because I'm a chef. When I go to people's houses, I usually bring something cookie or spicy. And I'd spent years with this person, clearly off and on throughout the years, as we were a long distance friendship. And there was sea salt that I actually purchased that was in her cabinet. And I remember telling her, go get that Morton sea salt with the turquoise, whatever. And I told her the same thing I just told you, how to do it. And I don't know if she did or not. I know she probably thought I was full of shit and didn't understand that there was a purpose for me doing it. And it was to spare her feelings, because I knew what my absence would cause her in her heart, no matter what she lied to about the rest of her family and friends. So if you are even merciful and loving to the person that you want to separate from, even if they're causing you pain, recommend for them that they might use some salt too. Usually it's just a ritual you would do for yourself and by yourself, because I loved her still in that moment, even in her deceit and her stubbornness and her ridiculousness. I extended the courtesy and said to her, not just to be mean, but mama, get out the salt. Get it out. Now, in any case, if you love somebody enough to do that, now I will say that a year later, I don't know that I would have been so kind, but at the time I was still juicy and malleable and still felt all of the compassion that I had always felt for her. Now, I would not have ever told her shit. I should have not ever told her anything. I don't regret it. That was the right thing to do, y'all. Hashtag petty spaghetti does set in after time goes on. You're like, the more I'm away from it. And that's the beauty of salt too. Last thing, guys, at 222, couples, energy, and relationship. The beauty of the salt is that it clarifies your mind. Purification literally happens here. All of the like murky thoughts I had and not being sure and not understanding what was happening, gone. The second I started doing the salt, I started to see all of the spell work and all of the BS that she had done, and all of the pulling in other people to try to make me feel away and try to get me out of my character only because she was jealous and mad and hateful and sad, and girl and boys, whoever's listening, you fill in the blank. When you use salt, it starts to clarify for you that maybe this connection wasn't as magical as you thought. And what was magical about the connection between the person that I had to salt from most recently was me, okay? And that's just real. Empaths and divine feminines watching, what was magical about the connections that you couldn't be out of with a narcissist or a covert or malignant narc? Did they bring magic or love bombing initially and then bullshit and drama and silent treatments later? If you're dealing with a narc, I highly suggest get out the salt, because narcs love to hoover and love bomb, and I wasn't doing that with her. Now, I've allowed other times for that to happen in other situations before I knew better, but as Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. I observed her, I mourned her, I did all of the things I needed to in the last 2 years, right with her. It was a luxury my angels afforded me because I was listening. When you're spiritually connected, you will hear and you will not linger or tarry, as the Bible would say, in a situation. I got to have all of my sads, and I got to look at her being an asshole right to my face, and I mourned her with her. She had no idea. but I already had the salt on order because I knew what I was doing when I came home. All right, as soon as I could confirm the things that needed to be confirmed. In any case, guys, this is the magic of the salt. Do it because you need protection. Do it because you need mental clarity. Do it because you want a real separation. Don't do it if you think you can reconcile, because once you do it, it is done, my friends. It is done. Okay, so that's what you need to know about salt. Get some in your life. Get out of those toxic situations and relationships. Protect yourself from low vibrational co-workers, low vibrational lovers, exes, friends, besties, and then thank yourself and Jesus, y'all. Thank God for being your friend. The universe has your back with this. You do not have to stay stuck. Salt your way out. Okay, all right, guys, super good to spend some time and energy with you. Use some of those tips and tricks and come back and let's talk about more protection, but also how we can evolve together.